Hi empaths, welcome to Heart Space Wellness Alliance. Here's my healing room. Let's get started. Hi empaths, welcome back to my healing space. We're going to get into another reading. Before we do, we're going to clear the space and the cards with some Tibetan tinctures, invoking angels, guides, compassionate ancestors, any beings of the light who want to inform this reading for the most concise, resonant, accurate message of priority for the listener at this time. Good. Let's pull an angel card from the original Angel Cards deck and see what topic is of priority to look at today. Enthusiasm. Enthusiasm. Where could we use a healthy dose of enthusiasm? And where could a simple attitude adjustment of enjoying our experience help us feel more gratitude, right? Gratitude for our job, our life, our relationships. I'm being called to work with the Magical Messages of the Fairies Oracle Cards deck by Doreen Virtue. Let's see what the fairies have to say about enthusiasm. I once saw a past life as a fairy. Actually, when I started doing past life work, my first regression, I saw a lifetime as a fairy. And I was very confused. I was like, how is this possible? But it was very interesting. A lot of stuff came up. There were fairy dances I would attend. I recognized a few people in that lifetime that I know in this lifetime. And as a fairy, my attitude was, I saw like a gnome, like a garden gnome walking to work very dutifully. I thought this gnome looked very stupid. I was very judgmental as a fairy, very angry and irritable. I noticed that I was very judgmental with this gnome, like walking to go garden and work. I thought, why are you working all the time? That is just such a stupid priority. I was also aware that I was a timeless entity though, like that time wasn't really something I was thinking about. And then I also heard the gnome being followed by a human, I guess. I don't know if the human was the gnome's master. I know this sounds this sounds out there, but this is just what happened in the regression, my first memory. And a human was stomping his feet behind him. And I was like, humans are so loud and obnoxious and rude, and I was just so angry that this human was disturbing the peace and always in a rush and like not mindful and present. And so I was bringing that up because the mindset of the fairy, and the priorities of the fairy. We had our own personalities, but we definitely took time to dance. That was an important aspect of this. There were fairy dances all the time. Our education, in part, what I saw was looking into the eyes of an owl and learning through the telepathy there, and flying into the hollowed out tree. It was very, very, very interesting. I think I also remember just kind of watching flowers bloom, like looking over nature, right? Recently I was listening to Dr. Stephen Farmer talk about how fairies are the ancestors of the land. And so they're like guardians of nature, and they're also known as elementals, right? Which I really resonated with. And it was like putting that anger in check. And my sense of, you're disturbing nature, you're disturbing the peace. But in this lifetime, I meant you come back, right, to learn the opposite. So the alternate perspective. And as a human, I'm very aware that we're rushing around to get places because we have to be aware of time as humans. So we're rushing around trying to get to work begrudgingly. But where can the attitude of the fairy help us? Learning with enthusiasm, and I'm seeing sparks of light, which sometimes some people say those are fairies, elementals showing up. Taking time to dance, right? Just enjoying life, having enthusiasm for life. What aspect of your life could use a healthy dose of enthusiasm? Let's see what the fairies have to say. Okay. Walk away comes up first. Walk away. Leave the unhealthy situation and enjoy the new doors that open as a result. There's something you're doing, or someone you're spending time with, or something that feels like you should, right? There's a should. There's a few shoulds that maybe revisit. What are you able to walk away from? It could very well just be your perception or attitude around it, right? It might be a situation where you need to walk away from something that's that's becoming toxic, right? That's no longer serving you. It no longer feels like a win-win. Maybe it did at first. Maybe as new information arose and came to your attention, it no longer feels like the right choice. It no longer feels like, now that there's more clarity, it feels like you just didn't have all the information when you first decided. And now a new agreement needs to be made here. Whether that be a relationship agreement, job title, description, right? Something like that. New information about a health issue. Did you intuitively start taking a supplement and found that it really improved an area of your life, or a health issue was turned around very quickly? That happened with me when I started taking plant-based iron, plant-sourced iron by Gaia brand. I had no idea I was anemic. Health issues were turned around. Is there an area you're feeling hopeless about? It feels like you lost signal, right? You're like, I'm waiting for guidance here, but it feels like you lost signal. Sometimes that's what happens in the 11th hour, right? When we're just about to have a breakthrough, we think we've lost signal. Well, the fairies are confirming your wish is granted. What you've asked for is coming true. Soon you'll see what this is if you don't already know what you're walking away from. That'll reveal itself through renewed clarity around a situation. Also, holidays coming up. Holiday. The answer you're looking for can be found during a vacation, retreat, or holiday getaway. Which can offer us a renewed enthusiasm for for work or relationships, right? When we're in new surroundings, or we absorb the sunshine in a tropical location, or we enjoy the dry heat of the desert. Sometimes that's very healing for people. Or we go to a healing location and experience that. When we come back, we can bring some of that renewal home and have more enthusiasm for the mundane tasks, right? And then get some exercises coming up. As your body becomes stronger, you begin to feel stronger in all ways. And you know, sometimes we feel heavy and weighed down because we have an exacerbation of the water element in our system. Medicine for exacerbated water is fire. And anything that gets us in touch with the fire element, exercise is great for that. Exercise does get us in touch, certain types, right? Certain types of exercise. Going to the gym, certainly, and exercise, doing certain exercises there. Anytime I want to get more in touch with fire, I do something creative, or like for me, singing and dancing gets me back into an enthusiastic state. I am part fairy after all. We're known for our acting and dancing and singing. Or I'll go to the gym and I'll do a workout there. And just that environment is very fiery. You know, think Eye of the Tiger. Anything competitive, right? That gets us into our fire. And just getting in touch with what makes us passionate, our passion. Helps to burn off some of this excess water. Let's also look at what aspect of self wants to come up. Say hello. Be seen. Get some acknowledgement here. What aspect of self wants to make an appearance? Get us in touch with some enthusiasm. This might also be whatever it is that you're working on creating right now, co-creating, right? Can you celebrate the small wins? Can you celebrate the small successes that you might overlook, right? One might overlook but it helps. The gratitude and the celebration of the small wins helps us signal that we want more of that. Sometimes we think, let me focus on what I don't have yet, right? But that doesn't put us in the right state to receive more. Gratitude is the signal, I'm ready to receive, right? I want to receive more. Do you know anyone that models that? Right? Do you know anyone who's just so elegant at receiving? They're so good at expressing gratitude in a genuine way. that people enjoy giving to them. I mean, talk about a win-win, right? If you can make someone feel enthusiastic about giving to you, that's a great skill. I know someone like that. You just want to keep giving, and they're so good at acknowledging and showing gratitude for every little thing, and enthusiasm about it, right? I think that's the key element. It's not just like, oh, thanks. There's like some enthusiasm around, oh my gosh, this is amazing. You thought of me and got this for me? Oh my gosh, thank you so much. How do you work with this? Oh, okay, interesting. Or tell me more about this, right? And there's some enjoyment and pleasure anchored in through that enthusiasm. I think that's really wise. Can we strengthen that skill, right? Being receptive is a skill. Receiving with gratitude is a skill. A lot of us who are working through some wounding around not being enough, not having enough, have a tendency to overgive and not be good at receiving, right? There's some worthiness issues there. This is a skill we can look to forge, because we got to receive sometimes or everything's out of balance. All right, what aspect of self wants to show up with enthusiasm? Servant. Light attribute, delight in serving others with a free and loving heart. Delight in serving others. Are you in a service position? Are you able to serve others with enthusiasm? And the shadow attribute, using the lack of money as an excuse not to move forward with life. Using the lack of money as an excuse not to move forward with life. Why is that about servant? Not sure why that's associated with servant. I guess if you're a servant who doesn't get paid, or doesn't get paid fairly, that happens quite often, right? Delight in serving others with a free and loving heart. That is about serving with enthusiasm. Can we have more enthusiasm? And maybe see our ability to serve as a gift. Do we reap rewards from? Is it a win-win when we show up to give? What is it you're able to provide? What service are you providing? Do you do it well, and do you find gratification in the effect that you have on others or what you provide for others? Does it feel like a win-win when you do it? Let's look at Spirit Song Tarot. I haven't used this deck. This is by Paulina Cassidy. I don't normally use this deck. I think this is the first time I'm using it on this channel. Spirit Song Tarot by Paulina Cassidy. They're really, really beautiful cards with animals, animals and insects. And they can be used as oracle if you're still learning about the tarot. because they have a couple of keywords on each card. They don't use traditional Rider-Waite symbols, however, but it's based on that system. Let's see, what else do we need to know about enthusiastically serving humanity, getting back in touch with our enthusiasm, by burning up some of that water, walking away from things that no longer serve, or updating the agreement, right? And trusting that those things we're co-creating are coming into fruition for us. Can we celebrate the small successes? What more information do we need? What information can you provide? Just a few cards. Just a few cards from the Spirit Song Tarot. I'm still learning to interpret these. Is there an area where you're begrudgingly showing up because you don't feel like you're fully agreeing to do so? Is there a way you can just add a dose of enthusiasm, right? I keep using the word, but just a slight attitude adjustment can align other people to the same mission, the same goal that you have, right? Instead of pushing people away. Right? I'm just seeing that in my mind's eye right now of repelling attitude and, you know, sort of resisting and begrudgingly showing up and working or showing up in a relationship begrudgingly out of obligation and feeling resentful. And then a slight adjustment where, can I say yes? Can I say yes with a little bit of enthusiasm to some part of this and just be really fully present with that? And make it fun so other people are on board and I feel supported, I feel networked, I feel connected, as opposed to feeling completely isolated and resentful. Just a slight adjustment there sends a different signal and draws more people in. So you feel the strength of the community instead of isolation, maybe. Or you can say yes fully to one aspect where it feels like a win-win and focus on that and celebrate that aspect instead of focusing on those things that you're not interested in or you're doing out of obligation or a should and it's just not working anymore. Can we change the agreement? Can we speak that, right? Can we do it in integrity and voice that and just say, can we shift this a little bit? Or I need a change here, or do we need to walk away completely from something? What Spirit Song cards So the first card that comes out is Two of Feathers. Two of Feathers, that's so cute. I guess this feathers are swords in this deck. Decisions and direction, right? In the traditional tarot, the Rider-Waite symbols, it's the woman holding the two swords blindfolded. So there is something about making a decision and feeling like you're deciding. That's how we feel freedom, right? Where can we say yes and maybe change the direction here? Because if we're in resistance, that kind of keeps us stuck and bound to something. Where can we shine more light of awareness and show up and say, maybe renegotiate, right? Maybe renegotiate here in relationship or in career. We have to speak it, right? We have to talk about it. An attitude adjustment might shift everything, but you might, if other people are involved, you're going to have to talk about it, right? Sometimes we expect others to just read our minds and it doesn't work out. Interestingly, 4 of Feathers is coming out. The 4 of Swords is the person in meditation, right? Underground. It looks like they're underground in meditation in the traditional Rider-Waite. 4 of Feathers, sanctuary and rest, which is interesting because the holiday card comes out, right? So maybe a mindset shift through a small vacation or getaway or staycation, right? Of just renewing, rejuvenating, and resting, recharging can give us a fresh outlook. We can really contemplate in that time how we'd like to move forward so we can do so decisively, with intent and on purpose. And then we have Ace of Shells. And shells, I'm guessing, are pentacles in this deck. Happiness and abundance. The Ace of Pentacles is a new beginning in the material world, a new sense of prosperity, new resources, maybe a new sense of resourcefulness, possibly after the sanctuary and rest. Maybe there's a focus on a lack of resources here, and what you're really missing is your resourcefulness, right? Your resourcefulness, coming back into a state of agreement with reality and saying yes to something. What can you fully commit yourself to? You might need to renegotiate. On what terms will it feel like a win-win? If you don't ask, the answer will always be no, right? And then we have the 3 of Acorns. The 3 of Acorns, foresight and exploration. Acorns, would they be staffs or wands? All the decks have different symbols, right? Acorns might be wands. Foresight and exploration. So in a state of resourcefulness and in alignment with your abundance, getting out of sense of lack, right? Getting out of that focus of lack, are you able to see are you able to see an area that maybe just needs more order, right? And when we can observe it from a state of alignment, we might find that order starts to take shape, or we have a perception of how creating order in some area or a system, putting a system in place will make things flow much more smoothly. I'm just trusting where this is going because I'm not quite sure, but that's what's coming in. Because part of the reason there's a lack of enthusiasm, and part of the reason there's this stagnation in some area is because there's this chaos and there's this lack of focus, lack of order, and it just feels bad. I'm not quite sure what this is specifically, but I hope this is speaking to some area and it's making sense to you. What I'm seeing in my mind's eye is like this chaotic field of energy, and all of a sudden it aligning and creating this open space, and then the platonic solids, right? Octahedron, cube, right? All these geometric shapes taking form, and it just flowing so much more smoothly. And your ability to kind of observe and see what needs to happen to make that order come into place, whether it be a new system or maybe this is your strength, right? Maybe this is something you're really good at, and you've lost touch with that by just being too in it and taking a step back, right? Going on holiday. Focusing on your body and exercise and getting out of, overthinking, getting back into your body, will begin to create more order here and enable you to see it from another perspective. And then not just come back renewed, but have a new system in place, right? Or a new agreement in place that creates more order so that you're capable of maintaining and sustaining this new state as well. So it's not just coming back to the same chaos and getting pulled out again. What area needs more order? Are you able to explore that? Are you able to take a step back and observe and maybe that's why walk away came up, because you just need some distance and space to see this clearly, to see how to explore it and see how it wants to align and take shape. And maybe that's what you're creating right now, right? It's maybe in the lump of clay phase right now. Maybe it's a new start. It's in the lump of clay phase and it's not quite taking shape yet. But you'll get renewed perspective and enthusiasm around how this is going to happen if you just take a step back and focus on something else. Allow your mind to take a break from it for a moment. Right, the element of ether. The element of ether is the structure within where all the other elements are able to exist, right? And ether is related to grief or a sense of loss, but also space, taking space. This walking away, is there something that you have to get over first? Is there something you have to grieve first? Maybe that's why you need to go just get away. Maybe that's why you need to get some exercise and burn up some of the water of the sadness of this, or, get back into your body. Find sanctuary, right? Rest, meditate. Meditation is about space too, and expansion. And just explore your way through here. To come back to a loving heart, right? So that you can serve from a loving place. Are you in a sense of loss right now? Or is there something you need to let go of? Right? To promote the growth, right, of a plant, we sometimes have to trim the dead leaves, right? Or so taking stock of that and getting clear about that. And then the last tarot card that comes out is the Ten of Shells. Blessings, well-being. Blessings, well-being. I think I think shells are pentacles in this deck. Ten of Pentacles is complete fulfillment in the spiritual plane. So do you have a vision of what that looks like? And can you allow that to guide you here? Do you have a big goal or dream of serving humanity in some way? And are you meeting roadblocks? Or is your love language in relationship acts of service, right? Sometimes another person doesn't feel loved. Even though we feel like we're giving love, it's not their language. Acts of service, it might feel like you're being very loving and giving of yourself, and maybe that's not how the other person feels loved. So maybe that's part of this agreement that we need to work out. How does the person I'm loving feel love? Sometimes it's even simpler than acts of service, right? Sometimes it's just one word, right? One nickname that makes someone feel loved. And here we are expending all this energy trying to show our love, and that's not their language. And maybe that's our language and we're projecting it. Maybe we just need to have a conversation and then we have a clear roadmap, right? And then we can enthusiastically show up and say, I know this one works because I've been, there's a lot of clarity here. Does that resonate as true? Because once we have a clearer vision, which we come to from this state of rest and renewal, right? Taking some space, and then also exploring mentally, right? So that we can foresee what this state actually looks like and feels like. What is the emotional resonance of this, right? Enthusiasm is probably what we're looking for. Just a little more enthusiasm in this can shift the whole experience. What crystal wants to show up? Hematoid quartz. This is a quartz with hematite inclusion, I believe. The key words are transformation, concentration, clarity. Clarity, right? Foresight, exploration, having a stronger sense of clarity. I feel like that came up somewhere else too. Decision and direction, right? Having a clarity of direction and decision, and concentration, which may come in the traditional Rider-Waite deck, the Four of Swords would be meditating and concentrating, right? And the affirmation, my thoughts are clear and focused. My thoughts are clear and focused. Perhaps working with the vibration of hematite quartz can give us a better understanding and help us transform in this situation and circumstance to bring renewed sense of enthusiasm to this relationship, job, whatever this is for you. Let's go to the Essential Oil Oracle cards by Lisa Powers and see what essential oil would like to lend its aroma to this topic. What essential oil wants to tell us about enthusiasm, sense of renewal, negotiating an agreement, serving with enthusiasm, there's two here. Let's see. Okay, so we got cardamom. Which is an oil of integrity, right? We want to speak up about the agreement and not just, not just decide without everyone's input and agreement here. The trigger statement is, it is their fault, right? The blame game. The true statement, my thoughts are the cause of my suffering. Interesting, right? We're renewing our perspective here so we can have a new state of enthusiasm. As emotions rise, go within to see what stories and memories are fueling them. Then release what is not serving you with gratitude. Interesting. Let's see what else about cardamom. Cardamom is the oil of objectivity. Helps individuals regain objectivity, mental sobriety, and self-control. Assists individuals who frequently feel frustrated or angry with other people. Cardamom is especially helpful for times when one's anger goes to their head, causing them to become hot-headed. In such situations, the individual becomes inebriated with anger, losing control and rational function. Cardamom helps to bring balance, mental clarity, and objectivity during moments of extreme anger and frustration. Positive properties: objective, self-control, respectful, tolerant, patient, mental sobriety. That's interesting because I was called to share the experience of the lifetime I saw as a fairy, and I experienced so much anger, irritability. And there was a balancing of experiences as I incarnated as human to understand what the fairy couldn't, right? This sense of lack, this lack of time, rushing around, trying to get to work, limited, feeling the limitation of resources. Maybe there's something to that as well, taking another perspective, having a balance of experiences. For example, are you now a manager of people and you used to be an employee? So you can see the perspective where you used to resent the manager, right? And despise that need for order or whatever, or restriction, feel like you didn't have enough freedom. And now as a manager, you look at the employees and see the chaos and see the lack of accountability and how it all falls on your shoulders. And so now there's this, kind of reciprocal experience here. We're able to see the other side. The other oil that comes in is clove. It's about presence. The trigger statement, why did this happen to me? And the true statement, how did this happen for me? Know that you are the star of your life, my dear. You are the lead and the audience is here for you. Interesting. That's interesting because I did have that vision of doing something begrudgingly, right? And pushing people away, making it not look very fun, and then shifting your vibe to a more welcoming, inclusive sense of joy around what you're doing, which draws people in and then gives you a stronger sense of community. Clove is the oil of boundaries. It supports individuals in letting go of victim mentality. Victims feel overly influenced by other people and outside circumstances, right? That sense of obligation. They perceive themselves as powerless to change their life situations. Clove helps individuals stand up for themselves, be proactive, and feel capable of making their own choices, regardless of others. It helps individuals let go of patterns of self-betrayal and codependency by reconnecting them with their personal integrity. Wow. And cardamom, the key word was integrity. Clove is presence. The positive properties: empowered, clear boundaries, protected, courageous, independent, capable, proactive, integrity. Interesting, right? We're creating order here. You have power here, right? If you don't have a power position at your job, your influence might be slight, but you always have power over yourself and how you're showing up. And you can always, bring up your issues and negotiate and work things out and discuss problems, right? And if your workplace doesn't have that environment, and if your relationship doesn't have that kind of environment, right? Sometimes we simply have to walk away. If our needs aren't getting met, if it's not a win-win, if our boundaries are being breached constantly, right? How are we able to serve in the proper mindset? It's got to feel like a win-win. It's got to feel like we're not being taken advantage of, right? And in that sense, we have to speak up. Let's end this reading with Wisdom Cards by Louise L. Hay. Wisdom cards. See how we want to wrap up this reading. If this is resonating for you and you know exactly what I'm talking about, please do share in the comments. I'd love to know. This idea of creating order in an area that feels out of control right now. And possibly part of that order is boundaries, right? Having proper boundaries in place so that you can have renewed enthusiasm here. Please do. And also make note of any connections or synchronicities I'm missing here. Sometimes I miss them on the first interpretation and I look back at the video and I think, oh, I missed that. But it was very clear, or maybe I thought it and thought I said it out loud and I didn't. Sometimes that happens too. But I'd love you to share if you notice any of those things, right? Fine-tuning our skills here. Particularly when I use a new deck. Yeah, it's not a fluent translation of the symbols as I'm still learning. What card wants to end this reading? With a little bit of inspiration, some new imagery for our subconscious, creating some renewed order and sense of enthusiasm around work, relationship, whatever this agreement is. It's probably been unspoken up to this point, at least in part. What card wants to end this reading? I dwell on positive thoughts. Isn't that beautiful? If good comes into my life and I deny it by saying I don't believe it, I literally push my good away. How can we dwell on the positive thoughts enthusiastically, right? Have a renewed sense of enthusiasm. Know and trust that your wish is granted, right? Not saying the universe is a genie. We're not saying God is a wish granter, but there's a co-creative force here working with you. Are you able to observe how things want to come into fruition, see the order, and then make strategic moves in that direction and speak on it, right? And then recognize a renewed sense of well-being and the blessings, right? Can we focus on the positive, right? We focus on the positive in life so that we're able to serve in whatever way we're called to serve with a free and loving heart. Can we decide? Can we find more freedom in the fact that we're deciding and not doing it out of obligation? Does this reading speak to you in any area of your life? Please share in the comments. I'd love to hear. If it didn't quite resonate for you, maybe it's for someone you know, please do share with them. Anyone you think it might help. Provide service to, right? Yeah, any more information you want to know about me, you'll find in the description of this video, about finding me on other social media platforms, working with me one-on-one. Yeah, I hope that you enjoyed this reading, and I'll see you in the next one. Many blessings to you.